Experiencing Hoops Peterson himself on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Ice cold beers and cold hard cash. Join the action on the pitch with the Heineken 2022 Soccer Prediction Challenge. Compete in 20 free-to-play pools this season for your shot at a share of $100,000 in total cash prizes. Head on over to DraftKings.com/Heineken now to start your run at victory. Heineken, beer made better. Turn 21 years or older. Terms and conditions and other eligibility restrictions, they do apply. See DraftKings.com for details. As per usual, please do drink responsibly. We're back here on the Greg Peterson Experience on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Great to be joined by our guest, Stephanie Odie. Does a great job covering the game of football. She does great work over at Fox Sports and other platforms. And Stephanie, it is always great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I wish it was under better results over the weekend. It was brutal in Columbus, Ohio, but excited to be back and talk some conference championship.
Yep, I know that you are someone that went to the Ohio State University. I'm familiar with that university as well, being from the Midwest. I didn't have the grades to get into any of those nice schools since I went to a D3 university, but that said, it always causes for a lot of fascination, and now I'm sure that you're very much taking a look at what we're going to be getting results-wise. We'll dive into the games in a minute, but what do you think could happen if we see either A, TCU lose, B, USC lose, or C, both of these teams lose? Because I think that that's a big fascination, because pretty much for those two teams, win to get in, but if they lose, then it causes for just a whole bunch of hoopla in terms of the picture.
Yeah, it's always fun looking at the circumstances and how can everyone get in. I know everyone would be very upset if Ohio State gets in. I've even said it. I don't think they deserve it. They have played too close in several games to lesser opponents than Michigan. I do give Michigan all the credit in the world. Jim Harbaugh really turned that program around. They're 24-2 over the past 2 seasons. Only one team in the country has a better record. The team they lost to last year in the playoff, Georgia. So I look at this and the way it's structured right now, it's kind of set. USC, they're facing a team that they have their only loss to by 1 point. It's hard to beat a team twice, so I don't know if Utah can get the win in this one. USC might have a lock. They got the Heisman contender favorite right now. And also, you look at TCU. They're another spot that's undefeated. They should be a lock at this point if they lose. But I always say college football is the only sport where winning is not enough. It's how you win. There's a committee sitting and looking at how your margin is, how many points are you winning by, how's your play, the eye test. So there's a lot of factors that would factor in as to how they lose, but I do think it's pretty set right now. I would say they would have to get blown out, TCU or USC, but you look at Georgia, they could lose the SEC championship. They're a lock at the number 1 seed, and Michigan definitely they just took the best win of the entire season up against number 2 Ohio State, and the committee still has them ranked at 5. So I think that Michigan and Georgia are locks right now. We'll see how USC and TCU do, but they should be able to stay in their spot.
Yep, you mentioned it. If Michigan does not get into the college football playoff, they probably lost to Purdue by 100 billion points, and they had half their team fall off the roller coaster and break every bone in their body. That would not be too terrific for them, but that said, in terms of their game against Purdue, I do think it's of fascination. They're currently between a 16.5 to a 17-point favorite. Draw this game is anywhere between 51.5 and 52. And with Michigan, the concept for this team has been the defense. And you know what? They finally got the passing game going. They hadn't needed it all year long. When they needed it in the first half because Blake Corum was dealing with his injury, they were able to get it out of them. And with Corum, obviously, that is something to watch out for as well. He tried to give it a go against Ohio State, got 2 carries, just no dice for him. But where do you stand on this game? Because I feel like there's a lot surrounding it. And the one thing that I feel like we're able to know is that this Michigan defense is going to be nasty, and they're going to just pile into Purdue in this one.
Yeah, Michigan, I've taken them in some bigger spreads, and they've covered for me. They have the biggest point margin in the country, plus 22, and they've really stepped up their game. They really are great at forcing teams to play their football. But when we saw them against Ohio State, it was remarkable, to your point, as to how J.J. McCarthy brought up that passing game. Over 300 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. And then even without Blake Corum, who's the running back favorite as the outside of the quarterback position for the Heisman, he gets hurt in that game against Illinois. And then you have Edwards step up over 200 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, I was overly impressed with Michigan. And again, Harbaugh, the way he turned that program around, they were just completely prepared, and they shocked the Buckeyes. And that was the first time I've ever seen the Wolverines win at the Horseshoe The last time that happened was in 2000. So as difficult it was for me to watch, I was very impressed with Michigan, and I will happily lay 16.5 with them. The only setback would possibly be to rest Corum more, but I mean, they're deep as they showed, and they can certainly prepare for games. I think they got another Big Ten championship in their pocket.
There have been a lot of people who have not been buying into this team, but they've been the best cover team in all of college football. That is TCU. They're playing at Jerry World against Kansas State, and with TCU in their home state, they are a 2.5-point favorite. Going to be very interesting to take a look at this game because the last time these two teams played, it was very, very tight. I believe that was a game in which Kansas State had Martinez go out with an injury as well, if memory serves me correctly. So big-time revenge spot here for Kansas State. You know that they would love nothing more than to get a win, but this TCU team, they just keep finding ways to be able to win. Where do you stand on this game? Because I think it's one of the trickiest ones of the weekend.
You know what? I've been taking TCU all season, and I loved when the books were doubting them. They did raise the bar up to 10 points as a favorite last week. I was nervous to take it, but boy, am I glad I did. I also took their team-point total over 28. Iowa State only allowed 2 teams to do that besides them. And wow, I was really happy to see them do it in the first half. TCU is very well prepared. I mean, I get the concept of they're playing backup quarterbacks. They're playing in tight games, but they're winning them. And they're proving that they really deserve a spot in this playoff. And even as an undefeated team, they have to make their case still. I know it's wild, but also Max Duggan, I feel like could also at least get a visit to New York City as the Heisman contender. I know Caleb Williams will ultimately be getting it, but his play has been phenomenal as of late too. So I get that this could be a tough spot. I mean, it was a close game until they had to have an 18-point comeback win in that one. Play backup quarterbacks, but this TCU team has really stepped up their game. I've loved their defense as of late, stepping up when they really needed to, when their offense is ever lacking. They were able to hold Texas and even Bijan Robinson, only 12 carries. I mean, it is remarkable what this team really can do when they need to do it. They need to do it in their conference championship, and I'm going to take them. I am laying the 2 points with them, but I know TCU is a second-half team, and they play in some tight ones. So the better bet is actually -1.5 for TCU in the second half. So I'm going to take both of those.
Yep, and being able to get below a field goal, in my opinion, even though it's one up from 1.5 to 2.5, I think that is what's very, very key with this one as well. And then how about if we take a look at the SEC here between LSU and Georgia? This one, I think, is of a lot of fascination as well because we were mentioning it. 2 teams that should be safe, most likely, when it's all said and done. That would be Georgia and also the team we were alluding to earlier, Michigan. And with Georgia between 17.5 and 18-point favorites. And I've just been a little bit wary about some of these Georgia spreads just because the defense just, once again, lights out and a half for them. The offense leaves a little bit of something to be desired, though, and they're going up against an LSU team that, you know what, they might be thinking we might be able to play our way in if mass exodus chaos happens in front of us. So lots of motivational factors here. Any sort of play on this one?
Yeah, LSU really lost their playoff contention themselves. They're similar to Georgia in that they have a mobile quarterback. They can run the football. They have a good defense. I wanted to take LSU plus 18 because Georgia really could lose this game, and they're locked in for this playoff game. And maybe rest some guys. It's LSU, they've improved their offense, but this will be the best defense they face. It doesn't help that Jalen Daniels also injured his ankle in that last week's 38-23 loss to Texas A&M. He was in a boot yesterday. He's going to play, but I mean, that doesn't help when you're going up against Georgia's defense. So I do like the under in this one. The under is hit in 10 of Georgia's last 14 games. I just don't see LSU getting through Georgia's defense. So I think that a lower point score here will be the better bet.
Yep, I do think that we're going to be seeing a little bit of a low-scoring game there. How about if we hit upon a little bit more of a higher-scoring game in this final minute? Clemson, North Carolina. North Carolina is between a 7.5 and an 8-point underdog. This game is anywhere between 63 and 63.5 with Clemson. Defense has been a little bit, shall we say, not as great as it's been in the past. And for North Carolina, I really like the way that they've been able to move the ball. Interesting game considering Clemson. They blew their opportunity to make the college football playoff last week.
Yeah, you know I've been fading Clemson all season. I'm not hot on the ACC altogether. Both of these teams are coming off embarrassing losses on top of that. Clemson, they do have a top freshman quarterback, Cade Klubnik, if Dabo Swinney eventually wants to cut the cord with DJ Uiagalelei. North Carolina, though, also a great freshman quarterback, Drake May, who's third in the nation and first in the ACC with 320 passing yards per game. And he's also got a great target, and Josh Downs. Also, Clemson, their defense just allowed 360 passing yards to South Carolina. So May could have another big game. I'm not willing to take them to cover here. I want to take the Tar Heels. I don't know if I'm going to do it. So I'm definitely taking the over.
Absolutely. We're going to be joined next here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.